You're listening to Nurture Your Zest. I'm your host, Ashleigh King, and I will introduce you to a wealth of interesting, fascinating individuals from all walks of life who will share their stories, how they've overcome challenges, and you will find out their top tips for success. Through this podcast, you can gain tips to grow and change your life and the way you see the world, and help you to nurture your zest. Hi everyone, today I'm joined by Laura Perry and I'm really excited to chat to her because she is a Christmas extraordinaire and has her own business at Team Festive. So Laura, it's great to have you in the studio today. Can you tell us what your role entails?
Hi Ashleigh, thank you for having me. So I'm a professional Christmas decorator. We help people do, internal and external installations, homes and businesses. Make things look really festive for the season. It gets a little bit colder. We put twinkly lights up to make people smile. That's my job.
That sounds like the most awesome job ever. I would love to do something like that. I guess I would like to ask, you must get so many clients with different requirements, different colour schemes, different styles. So do you have a massive storage place where you store all of these things?
So everybody asks for something different. The whole idea behind our service is that we create something bespoke for each client. So if they have a restaurant and they have a particular colour theme in mind or a particular history to the building and they want to, illuminate parts that are relevant to them. We have a lot of lighting in stock. We measure it in kilometres. So substantial, and probably tens of thousands of baubles.
Wow, that's incredible. And do you make anything or do you install it all?
Yeah, so both of those things we make and install. We curate some of the best products from around the world, whether it's the best Christmas trees or the best garland or the best ribbons, best baubles. And then the step that we do is that put all those curated items together to create the luxury products that people see in these bars and restaurants.
Wow, okay. So it's really good chatting about this because you are actually our special episode for Nurture Your Zest this Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. So this will go out on Christmas Day, which is great. And actually, one thing I would like to ask you is, how did you first become interested in Christmas?
So really gradually, accidentally gained all the skills for it. So I don't think when you're little, you kind of grow up thinking, I want to be a Christmas decorator when I'm older. But I had worked in the events industry since I was a teenager. So you start out sort of, waitressing and bar work. And then you get asked, can you just put those fairy lights up to make the place look pretty? And you start putting lights up and then you think, actually, I'm quite good at this. And then somebody says, can you put those lights up or can you add some decor? And you're like, yeah, sure, fine. And I just said yes to things, So then you get to the stage where you know how to install lighting. You kind of installed a bit of decor and it goes from people sort of saying, can you just put these up to I put lighting up and I do lighting and, I can put lighting up for you. And that becomes, people then know that you are the person to go to ask for Christmas decorations. So really sort of gradual thing. It wasn't overnight. The idea for the business, so making it a profession, came from a blog that I read on the internet. And I think it was entitled 10 Ways to Get Mums Back into Work. And at the time, I was out of work or just wanted to change of direction. And I think number 8 said, become a Christmas decorator. And I was like, no way. Is that a thing? I'll have a look. So putting my skill set together with the idea grew over the next sort of year. It took 10 months to write my first business plan whilst I was doing a job at the same time. And then, launched my first Christmas company.
Wow, that's incredible. And just to have the title Christmas decorator, professional Christmas decorator, that's really cool. Yeah. Okay, so do you ever get bored of Christmas?
No, I don't think you can. It's such a fantastic time of year and makes people just feel a little bit more festive. When the nights start getting colder, a little bit darker in the UK anyway, in winter time. So I feel like we sort of pick people's spirits up when they just could be feeling a little bit like, it's very cold outside. Do I really want to go to work this morning? We can be the people to put a smile on their face before they get in the office. So no, never get bored of it. And there's so much planning that goes in throughout the year. And the year is so varied. It's not, we've got a 2-month installation window, but to get that window to be really efficient and effective, it requires just a lot of planning beforehand.
Wow. I was going to ask you that actually, is how do you keep your cash flowing the rest of the year? What do you do? And obviously you plan, but do you do other projects, or is it all planning time, planning your comm strategy, doing strategic things? What do you do the rest of the year?
So interesting you should ask about that, because seasonality is obviously very acute when your business is based around one day of the year as the deadline. And there are Christmas businesses who fail to understand how extremely seasonal it is, especially in cash flow terms. So interesting that you mentioned that. In my opinion, if you're in a Christmas decorating business, you really need to make money each and every year. If you don't, you need a backup plan, because you won't make it through to the next Christmas. You've got 9 months of very little trading. You do have some trade. So some clients pay monthly installments for their decorations. So there's still some money coming in the rest of the year. But most clients just pay in and around September for deposits, and then it comes all the way through to final payments in January. So the skill, I suppose, cash flow wise, is to make sure that each discrete year is a successful year for the business.
Wow. Yeah, that must take a lot of focused planning and just being careful. And how big is your team?
So in the past, I've had up to 35 people working for me in the season. But in recent years, we've sort of scaled it down and had a core team that's smaller but more highly skilled. So some jobs this year I've done alone, if it's a very small job, or there isn't the budget to have another staff member with me. Generally, team size on installations is 2 or 3. And we do a very large Christmas tree for an NHS trust, which takes up to 10 people to install. So, yeah, it depends on the build. It really is just project specific.
Okay. And so you've given some background about how you became a Christmas decorator, but what does Christmas mean to you? Because it sounds like you would be working all the time.
So a lot of our installations are finished just before Christmas. So by the very day of Christmas Day, we are sort of fully installed, you'd hope. So yeah, it's a little bit earlier for us. Christmas started in September this year, for example. So when it comes to the Christmas season, I can enjoy it just with everybody else. But it depends on what people's festivities are. So although I describe myself as a professional Christmas decorator, the company name is Team Festive, because if somebody's festivities are a festival of light, like Hanukkah or Diwali or whatever their festivity is, we could decorate for that festivity. So Christmas is special to me because it's the time when my family all come together. We have an annual catch-up, we eat lots of food. We actually don't buy each other presents. We started Secret Santa and that kind of faded out. And so now it's all about the experience of just spending time together. We're all very busy people living in lots of different parts of the country. So really nice to go home to sort of a bit of hometown time. So for me, Christmas is family time, but also I understand that lots of people's festivities are family time or celebrations. So I feel like if we can contribute to people's festivities in a wider sense, then that would be, making a little bit of a difference to people, hopefully.
I think it's really important what you've said there, actually, is that it's not just about Christmas, but other holidays as well. And recognising Hanukkah and Diwali and all the other festivities that happen. So that's great. And I suppose as well, it gives you an additional business angle that you can, a need that you can meet. Yeah.
So we've had inquiries for sort of weddings and things, and all sorts of celebrations. There's something about putting up lighting that changes people's moods or the way they feel. So if you are having a celebration and you need to change an environment, decor and lighting are two of the things that can change that environment, along with music and the day itself and the planning and everything that goes into an event like that. But certainly lighting and decor, what we're good at, is something that changes the way people feel and hopefully helps them have a really good time.
I absolutely agree. Those are two things I think are integral in my business that I do, lighting and decor. But I would like to add flowers. I think fresh flowers make a huge difference when you're doing events.
Yeah, they're a lot of effort, but yeah, they are. It does make a wow statement.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll never forget, actually, my favourite experience of decor, lighting and flowers is my stepsister's wedding. It was like something from Vogue. She had Jo Malone candles everywhere, and I can still smell the room, but it cost her an absolute fortune. But it left such a mark that I'll never forget it.
That memory might even be associated with that smell now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you came across that candle, you might even just be transported back to that day when you were having a celebration, having such a good time. So people at Christmas, it's cinnamon and orange sticks, orange slices and cinnamon sticks, So smells like that, pine needles from the real Christmas tree, perhaps. Those are the smells that sort of transport people back to perhaps childhood or when they first started their own family and started their own traditions. So, I think smell is another interesting angle, that we have to work with. So.
It's a really important point, actually, Laura, because when you're talking about curating an experience, you really are doing something very special for families or businesses, or just creating an experience that people will remember and associate in a really positive way. So my question about that is, it takes a lot of work to go into that, and also your experience that you've built up over a long time. So do you ever find that sometimes, perhaps when you were starting out your business, that you had to justify your costs or what you were charging? I
don't think I've ever had to justify costs to people. I have had to explain how much work goes in behind the scenes. So I didn't see it as justifying the costs. It was just kind of like, in your hotel, how much do you pay people per hour? This is how many man hours it takes to create what you've asked us to make. How much would you then have to pay for that? We're going to buy all the goods and supply them to you and install them and store them for the year. And we're insured to do that. So again, as soon as you sort of break it down for people and say, here is the service, this is what you're getting for the money. Most people think we're at really good value. And that's the thing is, price doesn't so much matter. It's more the value that you're bringing to that client's business or their experience, their family Christmas, whatever it is. Sometimes, people do use the word at Christmas that the experience is priceless, So I think it depends on what you're doing and whether it is worth it for that client. And generally, if it's not worth it for that client, they probably won't buy your service. So we sort of cultivate clients who understand the value of the service and so therefore stay with us year after year after year.
That's great. And then year after year continues to grow, which is brilliant. Yeah. I'd like to ask you about mentorship or business programs or how you found your way, because we have a lot of listeners who are in the startup community. So how did you find your path?
I have never had any formal business education. So, I studied subjects that were nothing to do with business. So I've made a sort of trial and error journey, as it were. It's a lot of reading government websites, understanding what your responsibilities are as a company director, accountancy, just learning a lot about accountancy and quizzing the right people, and having a good accountant is always useful. So it's been a trial and error journey for me, which takes a lot longer. And I think it costs a lot more too. If you haven't had a theoretical understanding of business before you start, you're just kind of going with your gut feeling a lot and just finding your way. So that's been my journey, really. It's a tough road, but yeah.
It's important though, because and one of our previous podcast guests, James Rutherford, spoke about fast failure and how you need to fail in order to learn, and fast failure is important because the quicker you fail, the quicker you grow and learn. So I think mistakes are really important, and learning from those failings as well. But it is inspiring to me that to see your success, year after year, and see how you're growing. And I really want to know, so have you had a mentor, or have you looked for people that you can you mentioned you speak to people who maybe are skilled in a particular area. Have you kind of sought anybody out, or?
So the year before I started my first Christmas business, the largest professional Christmas decorating company in the United Kingdom went out of business. So that was a really interesting time to be saying, I think there is a future in this, when they were evidencing that perhaps there wasn't, but something else was maybe going on there. But that left quite a few people, in particular in the Northeast, who had a lot of experience in the Christmas decorating industry, but were without work. And so I picked up on a couple of those people who now come back and do some of the bigger projects with us. So each year they just kind of moonlight and come in, help us with the big stuff, and then pop away again. So we sort of pepper our team with their expertise when it's necessary. So those people have been really interesting, because they might have a 25-year experience in the Christmas decorating industry specifically. And I just thought how lucky I was that they're available and willing to help me, because they no longer have a company that they're working for. So I'm fortunate for them, but it's been amazing to get to know them and get to know the history of the Christmas decorating industry as well through them. And we generally get quality time together. So each year when they come back to these big projects, I kind of hang around with them a little bit, and say, how are you doing this? How do you do that? We do it this way, but what have you done in the past? And I can pick their brains a little bit on and learn more about how to Christmas decorate efficiently and make it look the best it can look. And in a wider business sense, I have two great business mentors. They know who they are. Amazing people. One who has a good theoretical knowledge of business and who teaches business to university students. So I can always go to her for, really theoretical, what would you do in this scenario? What have you experienced in the past? She's run multiple businesses that have been successes and failures. So just trying to take on board, her journey and learn from her mistakes will make my mistakes faster, and I will fail sooner, which is going to be more helpful. And my second business mentor understands the journey that I'm on as a startup, and has recently had his own startup, but has had many companies in the past, has probably succeeded and failed a lot, in his own right. And as a mentor, is just wonderful at dropping in at the moment when I really need help somehow. I have no idea how he does it, but just maybe every couple of months it'll be, how are things going, and that's all he needs to say for me to say, advice needed, this, that, So I have very long-standing mentors of more than 8 years now, both of them. So I don't look for more mentors, but those two fill two roles in my business life that I really need. And also when you're running a small business, it's not just, work life and personal life. They are completely intertwined. So being able to speak to those two people as friends as well about how here is my career plan and the business plan, and here is my life plan and what I'm doing with that. And for them to understand the context that I'm running the business in is absolutely priceless. They are amazing people. I can't thank them enough. And if there's anything I can ever do for them, I'd be more than happy to. So yeah, those mentors, I think if you can find people who really inspire you, you really respect, they are happy to sit down and say to me, I think you're making a mistake. Don't do this. That doesn't suit you. I think that's going to fail. And I've had a couple of lunches with them where I've sat down 3 years later and gone, don't tell me. I told you so. I know you told me so. I know you told me so. It happened. I did it. I had to fail myself. I'm sorry. I didn't listen, So I've had meetings with them like that where I've said, you told me. It took 3 years for me to realise, but fine, we failed. So yeah, really good mentors.
It's really important what you've said actually about asking for help, and sometimes listening to hard talks, hard conversations. It's really hard to hear sometimes when people criticize, but to have people who will tell you the truth around you and be honest with you about your business and how it's really doing, I think that's really powerful as well.
So hard to hear though, it's your baby. You just want it to thrive and survive. And if somebody says to you, you're wrong, which, if you run your own business, very few people say that, because they're either a supplier or they work for you, and they're not going to stand there and say, I just think you're wrong about this. So to have people around you that are willing to be a friendly critic is, I found it really, really useful and super helpful. So, yeah, I suppose I don't think I have enough experience in business to do that for other people, but, those two people are a couple of decades older than me. So maybe in a couple of decades' time, I'll be in a position where I think I have enough experience to help other people, and a big believer in pay it forward. So, they have helped me, and that is something that I will pay forward if I'm at all able to in the future.
Absolutely. And you never know when you could inspire someone, or you never know who's listening who maybe would love to start their own business or hadn't thought about being a Christmas decorator, or using some of their talents or passions to find their path. That's really interesting. I'm glad that you've spoken about the difficult conversations, and I'd like to know, from the outside, I guess people would think Christmas decorating would be all about making things sparkly, but what's it really like for you day to day? What do you do? What's your job apart from installing stuff? Because you're running a business where you at times have a lot of staff and a lot of clients, and they keep returning. So you're doing something really right. But what's your normal day like?
So if somebody wants to join the team, a lot of the time, I get quite a few proactive CVs and a couple of people applying for roles, and we've always got it open on the website just to see who comes through. But the Team Festive, the group, we probably get up at 5 a.m. in the morning. It's probably -4 or 5 outside at best. It was this morning. I felt like it. We jump in a van, so some people think, these lovely, beautiful big houses that you decorate and they look fantastic and it's a luxury product, amazing. But the hard grit is that, one of the tasks we were doing last week was, hi guys, can you get all the drains open at the bottom of the house? Because we need to get the cabling to go through the drains to hide it properly. So they're not, making things look luxurious. They're opening drains, So there's a lot of we have to know a little bit about how buildings are constructed, how you can attach things without damaging walls. Lots of things that are skills you would not expect. It's not just dusting glitter over garlands and trees all of the time, although that is a really fun part of what we do. The practical skill of installation is really, it's manual labour. It's hard work. Your hands hurt, you're cold, you're tired. Sometimes you're busy and you're hungry. You have to stay hydrated and, in my case, caffeinated. I really do love a good cup of tea when it's cold and wet outside. So in general, if you're going to pay somebody to do your Christmas decorations for you, you're probably going to pay them to climb a really, really tall ladder to the top of your house and do the bit you can't reach. So, if you imagine the bit you don't want to do, that's the bit we're doing.
So how do you nurture your zest, as we say in this podcast, when you are feeling low or stressed or working really hard, and you've been up and you're freezing? Do you have any tips or hacks that listeners can use for themselves when they're feeling stressed or busy?
Mm-hmm. So probably a top tip would be just to surround yourself with people who are better than you. So if you have a team environment like we do, my team know that I might not be able to get up in the morning, and one of them might just call me at 5 a.m. and say, just calling to check you're up, and that's the sort of team that you need to cultivate around you to help you do that. I've had moments where, let's say we had a Premiership football stadium who wanted us to decorate, and they gave us 4 days notice for the whole stadium. We're in the workshop at 2 a.m. I'm pulling an all-nighter because I'm the only one that can. Everyone else needs to be well cared for, and I've got a welfare duty of care over them and stuff, and I've got to send them on breaks and at home, and so I'm pulling all-nighter, and a new team member comes in and says, no, come on, we can do this. And I'm like, I don't think we can. And they're like, we can do this. So filling yourself with positivity from people around you who, just when yours dips ever so slightly, they can be the one to sort of pull you back up. And then when theirs dips, maybe you can be the person to pull theirs back up and keep the team motivated. So I'd say I named the business Team Festive, and really the team is the most important part, because if you surround yourself with good people, good things will come.
Absolutely. I agree. And it's nice as well to have your trusted people that return year after year that you can rely on.
Amazing people. I love them. I love my team. I love my team.
As an event organizer myself, I think it's great to start building people around you to take on your vision with you. And it's really nice to see you've done that right from the beginning, even with your business name, Team Festive. You know, it's clearly about collaboration right from the outset, which is really nice to hear.
Yeah, that came from, I just realised that there's no way that I could be a Christmas decorator on my own. It's not physically possible at all to do the intensity of installations that we do in the short space of time that we do. You have to do rapid team formation every year, and it's a different team every year. So you have people who come back, like I said, experts that come back for specific projects, but also, long-standing season members. Some people have been with me 3 years or more. So really, really good. But you asked about self-care as well. And for me, exercise is a massive part of my self-care routine, which I have the luxury of doing, 8 months of the year when I have time for it. I play hockey, which is a team sport, so I quite enjoy that environment as well. But I don't have a lot of time to sacrifice a Saturday when I need to be installing in the Christmas season. So there's probably a 6-week period before Christmas when I can't do my regime. I can't do the exercise I need to do. However, I am doing a manual job. I'm lifting and shifting things all day long. I'm putting ladders up against buildings, loading and unloading vans, helping the team, guiding them, teaching, training. There's a lot of practical skills that I'm imparting on the team every year to upskill them as quickly as we can. So with all that practical movement, I still feel like a fit and healthy person through the season. And then when it finishes, that's when I go back to, regular team sports, like the exercise I enjoy doing. So I think if you find an outlet for your stress, mine happens to be hitting small, hard plastic balls around a hockey pitch. But whatever your outlet for stress is, I've heard some people literally take plates into the garden and throw them against the shed. So if that makes you feel better, I think that sounds great to me. But find an outlet for your sort of your stress, and you'll come back to your business or your life or whatever's going on just that little bit calmer, more relaxed. So
I think that's a really important point, actually, because sometimes when we've got lots on, we don't prioritize exercise. But I really like how you've approached it in that you look after yourself and you see it as a way to connect with people, have fun, do it with your friends, with your teammates around a hockey pitch, so that you do that when you can around the year, but then you give yourself permission to say, actually, there is, I have to prioritize right now, and that's just gotta have to go. And actually giving yourself permission to not be perfect is really nice to hear. I know that's inspiring for me, and I'm sure that there will be some listeners who know that, trying to fit everything in. I guess during this particular time of the year, your house is not going to be the most tidy?
Not the tidiest. I have some very understanding friends, housemates, partner, who can make sure that they're looking after me. So, my housemate the other day baked me a tuna pasta bake, and I was just like, brilliant. I haven't eaten a hot meal for a while. That'd be lovely. So they know that it's a bit of a sort of, Laura's going to take at this time of year. I might not ever get the vacuum cleaner out for these 3 months, but I don't mind doing it every week the rest of the year, when I've got a lot more time. So when people get to know me, I think they probably think my life is really unusual and that there's no pattern to it at all. And you're always doing something random and strange and unusual, But actually, if you knew me for multiple years, my life, it has a regular balance. It just happens to be that everything is annual. So, for example, there is a restaurant I go to every year on the same day in a skyscraper in Frankfurt on my own to have lunch. And I look over the view across the city and I just kind of celebrate the season. Just one lunch on my own. And that's a little thing that I do every year. But nobody knows that I do that, And if you just saw somebody sat on their own in a restaurant, you'd think, oh, what a poor lady. She's on her own and doesn't have anyone to talk to or no friends to go to lunch with. And actually, it's just part of my annual cycle that I know works for me, or has done over the last sort of 7 years whilst I've been a Christmas decorator. So, yeah, if people followed me sort of closely for the year, I think they'd start to see annual patterns. But having an annual life that I understand is hard to explain to friends and family and people close to you and teammates, you know, when they're sort of saying, oh yeah, come to the pub in January. It's like, I'm really busy in January. We have to take all the decorations down, you know, so you think Christmas Day is over, but we're only at the halfway point then. So, I think the annual cycle is the key thing to me.
Thank you for sharing that. We all know that you do that now, but we don't know the restaurant or the day, so you won't have anybody begging you. That's a really unusual thing to do, but I love that. And it's actually really inspiring and empowering because that's your special thing and you've held on to it. And I hope you never stop doing that.
It was an accident. I wasn't actually allowed up the tower.
Oh, okay.
And now I figured out how to blag your way up there each year. So
well, that sounds even
no one can
more.
do it, you know. Even if you tried, you couldn't do it because I've just figured out how to do it. So
sometimes it's good to see how you can do something around the rules.
Yeah, especially when it's something special like that, you know.
Absolutely. I'm glad you've had a special experience like that, and it definitely sounds like that is your annual Nurture Your Zest moment.
Yes, it is, yeah. I suppose that's what it is, nurturing my zest, but in annual pockets. I did have one season where each month, even in the Christmas season, I took an evening off. So it's just once a month. We work every day and I would still work that day. But in the evening, I would do something like book to go to the theatre or the cinema or go bowling or just something that wasn't Christmas decorating. But that actually, I've let that slip. Like that didn't happen this year. So maybe I'll go back to doing more nurturing my zest, you know, after this podcast. So.
Well, thank you. I hope you do. I need to do some myself. For me, time in nature is my favourite, but also actually going into places where there are Christmas installations. I love Phoenix and what they do with the beautiful, just beautiful things to look at.
They create a story, you know, so everybody remembers the Paddington Bear window, you know, or the whatever the window was each year. They sort of remember that window. So, but people study visual merchandising for years at university. You know, you can get qualifications in it, and it's an art and a science at the same time. So, fully respect what they're doing there. I think we'd be more likely to be putting the lights up, you know, on the street outside, on the high street, you know, than we would be to decorating windows. But visual merchandising and Christmas decorating, there are some visual merchandisers who do Christmas decorating as well, and I have some that have worked for me in the past. So, yeah, definitely very similar industries. Yeah,
it's a nice skill set to have, I think, and especially if you can work with and collaborate with each other. So, we're running out of time. So I just want to ask two last questions. The first one is, what will you do this Christmas that will make you feel super happy? So you mentioned you're going to be with family, but is there anything that you can't wait for?
Just seeing, I have a niece and a nephew, so it sounds really cliche, but it's, you know, being their climbing frame is probably what I'm looking forward to, because Auntie Laura comes home and then they just climb all over me. It's big hugs. It's kind of unreserved love, you know, from the kids, which is really nice. Seeing my sister, seeing my parents. I've got one grandparent still, so seeing my grandma. All the stuff for me is about family. So it's just having one big hug, really. Maybe we'll get a photo. We haven't managed to get a Christmas photo for a few years. So my ambition is always to try to savor the moment and try to capture it, but it's not worked out yet. So maybe I'll mission on that one this year to try and get a family photo done. But
that sounds really nice. As someone who takes a lot of photos, I'm really surprised that you haven't got many. So
we can't get grandma, because it's sort of trying to fit everybody's. The kid, you know, is Lois, who's a baby, awake at the same time as grandma, at the same time as Matt being, you know, there's so many different people you've got to get in the room. So I think it's happened once recently in the last half decade. So pulling the family together and being in the middle of it, that would be perfect for me.
Brilliant. Well, that sounds beautiful. Okay, and my last question is, what is your number one word to nurture your zest?
Probably love. So I don't want it to sound too cheesy, but I would say love what you do, love the way you live, and love what difference you can make to the world, if that's not too big an idea for people. So what do people hope for? You know, they're hoping for the job of their dreams, the partner of their dreams, the house of their dreams. But actually, if you're just content with what you have and be content with the difference that you can make to the world, then if you're making it a better place and you're happy with that, you found your purpose. I think that would be how I'd nurture my zest, is just to love.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing, and thanks for coming on, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. You've been listening to Nurture Your Zest. You can find us online on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn at Nurture Your Zest. If you've liked today, please subscribe. You can also leave us a review if you're feeling extra kind. Today's podcast has been made available through the kind sponsorship of TL Multimedia and That Branding Company. We look forward to catching up with you again soon as you learn to nurture your zest.